Cautious comment.
You're ruining the video. You don't like kettlebells either.
Just swing them.
Alright guys, spoiler alert, the video is about why I don't like or use kettlebells. So, disclaimer, this is for me, okay? This is my take on the tail of the kettlebell. I'm a strength sport athlete, and sometimes I see strength sport athletes using kettlebells, and I would say it's improper use, or they just shouldn't really be using kettlebells, right? Our main focus here is to get stronger. And nothing wrong with kettlebells, I think they have their place, but for my training, not so much. And the reason being is, say you were trying to use kettlebells to get strong, all right? And you're someone like myself or Coach Matt behind the camera. Basically, the heaviest kettlebells that we have here would probably be 100 pounds, okay? This is like a 70 pounder. Say we have two 100-pound kettlebells, all right? We're trying to get better at deadlifting. The total weight is going to be 200 pounds. Now, for someone who's just beginning or just getting into it, that will get you some progress, but only gets you so far. And then when that happens, I just think using a barbell is just way more efficient in terms of strength training, okay? So one of the reasons I don't like them is just why I said that, is because you can only go so far in terms of strength with kettlebells for the main movements. However, for smaller movements or accessory hypertrophy, you may get away with using kettlebells, and that's fine. That's where they can be used. But I primarily don't use them. I'd rather either just use a dumbbell or a barbell for most of my stuff. So that's kind of where I stand on that. The other thing about a kettlebell, when you use it, even for conditioning, is you tend to get pretty efficient at using the implement. So therefore, you're not getting a great stimulus out of it because of how quickly you become efficient at doing the movement. All right, so for those of you just beginning, yes, you're gonna get something out of it, but the more you do it, the better you get at it, and therefore, you're not gonna get the best stimulus possible. And it's like if we were trying to use kettlebells, we need to keep buying more and more and heavier, and at that point, like I said, it's just not effective and not as efficient, okay? So from that standpoint, I just don't see them very practical. The other point is they're expensive. So if I were going to use them and I was going to keep buying and buying them, it's a huge chunk of change, okay? So it's something you have to consider, and I don't want to act like that's not an issue for some people, right? We want to get the best bang for our buck. So this is a pretty hefty price piece of equipment, so you're probably better off by either finding some dumbbells or finding a barbell and some weight that you can do a lot more than the kettlebell, all right? So just kind of recapping, with kettlebells, for strength training, okay, if they're smaller movements or accessory things, I think they're okay if you have the proper weight. I would not really recommend using them for someone who's trying to get super duper strong, and I would stay in your specific wheelhouse, okay? If you're doing bench, squat, deadlift, overhead press, all right, the kettlebell isn't gonna help you out so much. So that's just my take on it. For conditioning, I believe that you can use them to the degree at which you're getting results and you're getting the proper stimulus. If you're no longer getting the results or the proper stimulus, I would move on and find something else that you can, okay? So that's kind of my take on the bells. Now, when have I used them, or when have the athletes here used them the most? I would say doing some conditioning, we use them. Doing some accessory movements, we use them, like I mentioned. Doing things like carries, okay? So whether it's a farmer carry, it's a single arm carry, it's a loaded front rack carry, maybe it's an overhead carry, people use them. Like I said in my battle video, I've used them for holding other pieces of equipment or holding a rack down, putting a rope through them. So there's different uses you can get out of your kettlebells, but for the most part, I really am not using them much, and when I do, for me personally, it's probably going to be for some sort of carry variation, or maybe some quote-unquote core work, like if you're doing Russian twists or you're doing some oblique raises, or you're kind of just using it as a tactile piece of equipment for like plank reaching out or touching. So that's pretty much the take on the kettlebells. I know I offended a lot of Russians out there, all right? No, the, what's his name? Is it Pat? Who is it? Who's it, Pavel? What's his name, Matt?
I don't know if you're guessing here.
Come on.
I can't hear.
Who's the guy who loves kettlebells? Pavel. That's what I meant. Pavel. I was thinking Pavlov. That's my psychology background coming to fruition there. But no, so Pavel is probably offended because Pavel has cured world hunger and all the global problems with the kettlebell. He's also been on the Joe Rogan podcast, so I just can't throw him too much hate because I haven't been on the Joe Rogan podcast, so I don't know what the hell I'm talking But yeah, so kettlebells in a nutshell for you guys. Maybe you guys took something from that, maybe you didn't. Like I said, this is my personal opinion on while I use them. I'm sure people are gonna argue with me, and that's fine. I'm used to it now. So have some arguments in the comment sections, guys. I'll be sitting here with my popcorn, you know, eating it up, watching you guys destroy each other. Until then, stay lean, mean, trying machine. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace. All right, guys, so hopefully you just came from watching our little squat session, giving you guys a lot of cool tips for beginners, intermediates, and even a great reminder for advanced athletes. We got my man Anthony Deal in the house. He's a pro strongman, bodybuilder, nutrition coach, strength coach, does it all. Very similar to kind of what I do, which is really cool that we connect and we think very alike. But he's also a phenomenal presser. I'm talking like strict press, push press, just a freaking animal with those. So I want him to kind of go over all the basics, tips and tricks of a log. Right, strongman's growing. This is a big implement in the sport, one of my favorites. So I'm here to learn, as well as him just kind of share, you know, anything about it, the things to do, not to do, and how to be an efficient log clean and presser.
Yeah, so log is one of my favorites. I've always been a better presser than a deadlifter, probably because of the years I spent early on, you know, training like an idiot and just doing bench press and curls every day. But anyways, so log's a lot of fun. The first thing I do is I focus on my feet and my setup. So personally for me, I want to keep my feet planted at all times. So from here, my feet don't move. I'm not coming up on my heels. I'm not screwing around up here. So I like to find where I'm comfortable. And for me, I have my toes slightly angled out towards these posts. You'll also notice that I have the log tilted, angled away from me. The reason for that is so that when I get up here, it puts me in a better and more efficient position. So when I go to clean it, I'm just gonna deadlift it up, keep that angled away, and then I'm gonna sit down behind it. So see how my elbows and shoulders, my elbows are really high? This log is pinned against my sternum, okay? So when I stand up, I'm gonna squeeze my lats into the log to keep it pinned here, and just, and now I'm gonna great position to press. Elbows high, my chin in the back, and then when I dip, I like to think of putting my knees over my pinky toe. So a lot of times with the log, it's 12 inches, right? People will get here and they'll struggle because when they dip, their knees come forward. When my knees come forward like this, you can watch my elbows, they tip forward. That log's 12 inches away, and every time I dip forward like that, it's moving farther away from the center of mass of my body, and it's getting harder. It's just like a deadlift. When you go to pull, if it drifts out in front of you, it's gonna get harder, it's gonna be less efficient. So when I dip, I wanna make sure that I'm staying completely upright, completely vertical. So I think of taking my knees, driving them out over my pinky toes, and driving up and my head through. That's the basics of how I clean and press a log.
Yeah, super awesome. And I think we agree basically on everything. One thing I want you to talk about, which is a mistake I used to make all the time, is not to power clean the log. And it's more of that rolling up motion. Really, it's not necessarily static, but we're really keeping a lot more control than a power clean.
Yeah, well, I'll see, or power clean, or if you're really new at it, a lot of people try to reverse curl a log.
Yeah.
So they'll have the handles set here like this. They'll stand up straight, and a lot of people don't even know what to do here. And you'll see a lot of new lifters doing this, and there's all sorts of space between the log and their body, and they just got to like, try to get it up there like that. Again, that can work at first, but it's super inefficient, and it's going to derail you really fast. So that's why I angle these away. I get behind and I pin it. This is just a front squat, and what I think of is as my hips are rising, I'm trying to rotate my elbows. I want to put them out towards him. So now I'm in a good position. Versus just trying to use my hips to throw it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And that was one mistake. I came from an Olympic lifting background, so I was like power cleaning like 300-pound logs, which is just very non-efficient whatsoever. But then I realized that when I hug it tight, get that good roll, one, it was way more efficient. Two, I started putting on, like I said in the other video, a lot of muscle, man. Like you're working, it's basically the same thing almost as like a flexion row, which is something I really like, but you're getting the erectors, the rhomboids, everything, the lats involved. And we talked about before, you never see a strongman at a high level with a small back. So that's essential, I find, with beginners. Do you have any tips on pressing that you ever find with people, like that they need to tidy up when they press?
So sometimes you'll see people they're not used to the weight in this position. Again, why I do a lot of front squats, because I want to be comfortable here. If I'm comfortable here with a 500-pound front squat, well, when I get a 300-pound log, that's 200 pounds off. So a lot of heavy front squats, but a lot of times their elbows will drop down. And again, this is a 12-inch log, so if your elbows are here, that log is out here. Your center of mass is here. So this is why you want to be tilted back, elbows high. I like to think about pointing my elbows towards that opposite wall. So I'm here, and I'm keeping that center of that log over the center mass, and then press up and head through. A lot of people will press up and get stuck here, and their head's way back here, and they're fighting to do that. By driving your head through, it helps you extend and get your arms back.
So is your upper body slightly leaning back?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you do find that. Yeah.
Yes.
Once again, it's going to help build a bigger upper back. So that's kind of the basics of the log. We have an empty log here. What I'm going to have DK do is kind of just get some light work in with the log, nothing crazy, but I want Anthony to kind of coach him a little bit so you guys can see what it looks like going through the movement itself. I obviously can't because my bicep is still recovering and it's probably going to be the smart thing to do. So I'm here just kind of watching and learning. So we'll just put on something comfortable for DK, nothing crazy. DK's training like a madman right now. There's no need to do anything nuts. But you know, when we have guys like this in here, it's great for our athletes to kind of learn, get some pointers, see some other things that potentially could help him down the road. So let's kick it off to that.
There you go, pin that too.
DK's press has come a very long way. He's made a lot of improvements on his press, strict press and push press. So I'm excited for him to really dial in the technique. And I feel like at some point there's definitely a 400+ pound log being press in the tank.
Just from watching you do like the actual press portion, I don't know that I would change anything really.
Yeah,
I feel like it's probably my dip.
Your knees track pretty well.
Really?
Now I don't know if you have some psychological something going on with your knee injury.
Well, because I noticed back when he switched up my push pressing, because I like before my push presses were like, you know, knees straight forward.
Right.
And he had me, you know, knees out, open hips.
Yep.
And now anytime I press, I focus on that because I know with my comp coming up with circus, he wants me to focus on actually like opening the hips.
Sure.
And using the explosive power.
Well, I mean, just watching you just now, it's a lighter weight, but your elbows didn't move. It was a perfect elevator. That's what you want, like just straight up and down. If you're doing this, now we have a problem.
Yeah.
Now that might reveal itself as it gets heavier.
Yeah.
But yeah, just drilling that. You brought something up earlier. You brought it up, and I totally agree with it for strength sports. You can do 3 sets of 10 for hypertrophy if you're controlling the weight, whatever. For strength, I don't like to do that either, because what I like to do personally is when I'm working with lower percentages, I like to do something like 12 sets of 2, 10 sets of 3, because you're drilling motor pattern recruitment. Yeah. So if you do 3 sets of 10 and with a shitty form, now you're just drilling poor technique. Versus you do a double at 60%, then you can watch it back and go, okay, well now I need to work on this. Do another 2 reps, drill that. Okay, well now I need to work on this, and you're refining that motor pattern movement versus doing 10 reps with a terrible pattern and reinforcing this terrible technique.
When you're doing like 10 sets of 2, where like once you figure out whatever you need to fix, you'll end up with, let's just say, 6 doubles with the like perfect form that you want.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the
and like you're still getting the volume in. It's just broken down to work with your fatigue levels better.
Absolutely. And he talked about how your main audience is beginner to intermediate. Big mistake that a lot of young guys make, that I made, is not taking your weight seriously until it got to work sets. And if you notice, we're looking at technique on an empty log, and now with light weight, every rep counts because every rep is driving that motor pattern learning. And so view your warm-ups as intently as you would a 1 rep max, because you're drilling habits, and habits are what are going to drive that technique later on when the weight gets heavy. So, you know, don't just grab the log and throw it around and then get serious when it's time to put on working weight. Hey, when we're focused on log and there's an empty log, drill it and make sure everything's perfect, and slowly add weight and do that every time, and you're going to see a ton more progress.
programming question. If you had a competition coming up with log in there, how do you normally go about programming your log with your training?
Depends. Is it a 1 rep max, or are we pressing for reps? Is it part of medley? Like,
You can pick. You can pick either or. Like, is it something? I mean, more in terms of like frequency. Like, are you pressing at least every week? Will you just do a clean and press on one day with a log and then switch to other variations, or do you try to keep the log, you know, your staple for all your pressing movements throughout? Like,
personally, I like to press twice a week. I've done sometimes 3 times a week because pressing doesn't demand as much as deadlifting or say yoke or farmer's carry, stuff like that. So you can recover a lot. If I'm pressing twice a week, you know, and I have a log coming up in my competition, I will do log every week, but I will change up variations. I'm a big fan of making sure I'm practicing my strict press. I neglected my strict press for a lot of years, and I think a lot of people really miss out on some progress there when they do that. So, you know, I'll push press with the log, I'll strict press with the log, I'll push press with a cambered bar. I love push pressing with the cambered bar, incline bench with the cambered bar because of the instability. So yeah, if I'm training for a log and it's in a competition, I'm going to train it. Now, if it's a log that, you know, I have a decent press, so if it's part of a medley and it's, you know, 70% of my max, I might hit it every other week and just stay conditioned.
gotcha.
But yeah, it really depends what it is. Is it a max log? Is it a medley? Is it, you know, for reps? Is it clean and press every rep? I have a very strong Viper press, so I'm not very good at clean once and press away, so I'll practice that all the time.
Okay.
I get a lot of my tightness from the clean. So a lot of times when I get up here, I can press for a while and then I start to lose some of that. So I practice that a lot.
Gotcha. Cool. Cool. Want to get it? Come on.
That's a better clean. Rep, did you do 7 or 6? I think you did 6. Rep 4, your knee went in front, and I don't know if you noticed it, but like I watched this knee here, you literally like wiggled it back out for the next rep. It's like you realize what you did. That's why I said one more. I just wanted to see if you stayed there. You did.
Yeah, I felt it in my head. I'm like, oh shit. And that's when you said about doing one more.
But your press is ridiculous. So yeah, for you, it's working just the efficiency of that clean. If you can get that clean to be where it's just cake and not really even a part of the equation, then you can just focus on the press.
Yeah. So what does he have to work on with the clean that you're saying?
So you're still rocking a little bit. So you're up here. You do this sort of like you're trying to like get your hips. Yeah, trying to load a little bit.
So when you clean it, like when you lap it, it's literally just.
Yeah, I just when I get here, you'll see it. I'm just forcing my hips through.
You're literally bringing it, popping them through.
I'm popping them through, and like I know it sounds silly, but I try to time my elbows and my hips
to go at the same time.
To go at the same time, so it's like this. I need to pay attention next time. But what's your front squat stance compared to your log press stance? Because this is where pause front squats might help you. Like long ass pause front squats eliminate all stretch reflex, because if you can get comfortable down here with the heavy front squat, then you can just explode right up. You won't feel the need to lean back and load.
Well, that's the thing, like with front squats, like I mean, been in a year of like just heavy strength, so like you guys said, joints are shit, so it depends. Like if my hips are feeling good, I'll like go a little narrower.
Sure.
But if my hips are shitty, or I'll have to go wider just like so they feel good. I'll go whatever stance feels best that day.
Do you clean the log in the same stance as your deadlift, or is it different? Okay.
So my deadlift is like right here, and my log's a little wider.
Okay.
My log is right here. Right about here.
And then when you squat, you're a little bit more.
Yeah, my wife's squat is
Gotcha.
more
Gotcha.
my deadlift stance. The reason I say that is I just feel like even if you had to lighten the weight, because you can rock right now, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But your glutes and your hamstrings are much more powerful than your upper back. So when you're getting to max weight and you try to rock, all you're doing is that log is going to come out from you because you're depending on your upper back to keep it tight. And when you rock like this, it's just falling forward. So you can develop your hamstrings and glutes a hell of a lot faster. So if you can keep this tight position here and just stand up and drive through, it's going to make it more efficient, I think.
So, and you...
Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah. So when you clean, you're cleaning right in your pressing stance right away.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
you
change
know,
stances
like once
at
you
all.
get it up top, you don't adjust your feet or anything?
Nope. I breathe down here on the pick and I breathe in my lap. And then I'm right up and I don't want my feet to freaking move. So like that. But again, that comes from, I just basically view this as I'm pinning this to my, chest with my lats, rhomboids, traps, all that, and just front squatting it up, throwing my elbows.
Yeah, I like that.
That's how I view it.
Let's try to have you work on that, DK. Let's pan the camera over to Lyndon because I don't know what the hell we got going on.
Trying to be like discreet over here with 60 pounds of change. Bye, guys.
Tight, stand right up.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's a lot better.
Yeah, you don't need to do that rocking motion. That was perfect.
It felt better.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfect. And again, too, with getting that grip here, that grip really helps.
Yeah, I'm going to buy some today.
Stand up. I mean, some competitions allow grip shirts, some won't. Whatever.
Yeah.
If they don't allow them, by the way, you can wear a grip shirt underneath your comp t-shirt. It still works.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah, because I guess
It's going to catch it. It's going to grab it. But yeah, that's my go-to.
But I also think, because like, before I would always clean it in a narrow stance, get it to the top here, adjust my feet to my press.
So some of the elite pressers do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
It's whatever's comfortable for you.
Whatever's comfortable for you. The same thing goes with that angle of the handles. Depends on your arm length too.
Yeah.
So some people need a more extreme tilt away. It shouldn't be tilted backwards, for sure. But I mean, you got to play around with it. So
I just feel like tilting it forward, the lift, like the lift of the lap is easier.
Yeah.
Just because like the angle of your wrist and all that. And I mean,
it's a neutral
slide,
grip, too. Yeah. You just pull it straight up. It's just an RDL right into your lap. You sit
Because I
down
feel
right
like when you
behind it.
angle it, you're gonna have your wrist closer to your body, where if you just, pick it just straight like this, like you're out far.
You're out farther, it's harder to
There,
engage your
yeah.
lats. Yeah, well, because if you notice, when I set up, one of the things I did is I rocked my hips back. It's like, because I could pick it here, but I always do this little motion to get set, and get back on my heels. And I like to squeeze my triceps as hard as possible, because if you squeeze your triceps as hard as you possibly can, your lats will come naturally. So instead of just being passive and kind of just hanging on to it, straight up. But, I mean, some of the really great pressers, Terry Rady is a good presser in the 105, and he cleans ridiculously narrow, gets it here, and presses.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys that do that.
Because
So-
I've noticed the guys that do that, I've noticed it's just they'll get it up and they'll just move one foot.
Right.
Because my thing is I'm always like boom, boom.
Correct. You just want to be a technician and get to the point where your routine is the same every time.
Every rep.
Even with your front squat, you're talking about your knee. Maybe you get to a place where you practice it on lighter weights where you plant that weak knee, the insecure knee first, and that stays, and move the other one to match that.
Yeah, because
And then
I'm always moving like my.
Figure out where you need to go.
It's not like my right leg's my dominant leg, but I always, it's up and then I go back left.
Yeah.
And then the surgery knee.
But that last clean was great. So if you just drill that form, you don't need to do that rocking motion. It's going to be a lot more efficient long term.
Yeah, definitely like the clean and even like the pick itself, because I was standing there figuring out where I'm gonna press from, and I just like stayed in that stance.
Yeah.
And everything felt better.
I mean, if you pick it up just straight, at some point you're gonna have to fight with this log to get in the right position.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can nail down that position from the floor, then there's no fighting. You just go and you press. And I like to press pretty much as soon as I'm in this position, because the longer you're holding the weight here, it's like a life bar in a video game. You're just losing weight.
Yeah.
And so you see people doing this number and breathe in and stepping all over the place and really start. You're just losing power. Every half a second that passes, it's just going down. So, because like if you clean it like this, okay, now it's behind me, and now I gotta sit here and fight to get the right position. Or if I clean here, well, now, you know, I gotta sit there and fight to get in the right position. So if you just nail it down, like I said, it's gonna be a little different for everybody. Some people only a slight angle, other people need a really steep one. Just find what works for you and drill that, be a technician, start from the warm-ups, and then just have this pattern. That's just how you press.
Yeah, I mean, are we wrong? All right, guys. Yeah, honestly, I think we covered everything you could probably cover with a log right now, especially a lot of the beginner fundamentals, as well as some stuff that can transfer over to intermediate lifters, advanced lifters. For me, you know, my brain's kind of learning some things right now, which is cool. DK, just fine tuning things. And basically the biggest thing, you know, you can take away from this, just like Anthony was saying, is be a technician. Figure out what works for you and start instilling that early on, and just kind of get rid of all the thinking that could potentially happen when you're doing the lift, and set up properly so a lot of that stuff's already taken care of. But just want to say thanks, dude, for getting out here, teaching us some log stuff. He's got a crazy ass press. Like, he presses 400 pounds pretty regularly, which we'll put some videos or something like that from his Instagram here. And you know, I for sure see a 400 plus pound log. He's going for like the world record as a 105. Probably when you get back to strongman, you know, for this.
If Camby hasn't taken it today and set it sky high, if he sets it at 430 or something,
So
stupid,
gonna make you train harder.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
But yeah, I think DK got some points. You know, I learned something. You know, he's here helping us out, so really cool. So guys, obviously make sure you're following Anthony. We'll put his links obviously below in the description. Check him out. He does coaching, programming, all kind of stuff, nutrition. So if you guys want, go check out his services. Use him as a coach. Awesome dude, very knowledgeable. Been in the sport for a long time, so he knows what he's talking about. Hopefully you guys now know what this thing is if you see it in your gym and you didn't have an idea, or if you are using it, how to make yourself more efficient in the movement itself. So stay a lean, mean, strength machine. See you guys next time. Peace.